Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Mike, and I'm gonna make another video on Photoshop animation. I just want to say first off, thanks you guys so much for your great responses on my last video, and I plan on making another great video this time as well. This video is gonna follow up with my CMYK March 2011 roadmap. If you head over to the link in the description of this video, you would see my CMYK roadmap for March 2011, and as you can see, I've already done my glowing moon, and there's a link to the discussion on my website. And now I'm going to do the light passing from back and forth animation. So it's not going to, in this particular video, it's not going to be passing sorry about that. It's not going to be a light, it's going to be an object like an arrow. As you can see in Photoshop, head over into Photoshop for you guys. This is an actual image of what I've done, so I'm gonna kind of make that a little clearer for you guys. So here's the actual animation of it. Go over to File, Save for Device, Web and Devices, and what I'm gonna create for you guys is a cool loading bar. So as you can see, this cool animation with arrows going from one end and loading coming from the other end. I thought this was pretty cool, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So we're going to start off again with our 500 by 500 document. So File, New, 500 by 500, and press OK. And next what we're going to do is select our custom, not in custom shape, a rounded rectangle tool. Reason why is because we can customize the radius of this rectangle tool. So seeing that it is rounded already, when you adjust the radius, it gets rounder. So as you can see, here's a rounded rectangle or rounded box. When adjusting the radius, you can get different dimensions and different roundness to the rectangle itself. So I found that 50 was pretty good for what we're about to work with. What we're going to do now is draw out a not a rectangle but a gauge like image. So pretty big, something like this, not too big, but that seems pretty, well, of what we're trying to get to. This is what you're going to want to draw out, and make sure your radius is at 50. Alright, so go into your layers panel, select your shape, and we're going to call it gauge. So we kind of get an idea of when I start naming terms and click this and click that. You want to make sure you understand what I'm doing. So I'm going to double click on that gauge layer. And okay. Alright, anyway, we're gonna give it we're gonna decrease the fill opacity to 0, so it looks like there's gonna be nothing on the canvas, but it's actually something there. Next we're gonna select satin, and we're gonna change that invert option at the that's checked in there. We're gonna uncheck that, and we're gonna change the distance to 10, and we're gonna change the size to 40, so 1040. Alright, now for the stroke, you could give it any kind of stroke. You give it a basic color stroke, a gradient stroke, or a pattern stroke. So we're gonna give it a gradient stroke. And I did green in my example, the green one, so I'm going to do a purple one for you guys. So here's a cool purple, and we're going to press OK. So next what we're going to do is alright, we're going to select our custom shape tool, and you want to make sure you select this arrow right here. If you don't have this arrow or any arrows in your shape selection, you want to make sure you hit that little drop down menu arrow right here and select arrows, and you should get loaded up with a whole bunch of arrows. And we're going to want to select the one that says arrow 2. Alright, so this is very important now, this step. You want to draw your arrow somewhere in the middle for right now while holding shift. Holding shift gives you a perfect size arrow. So something like that looks pretty good. Alright, so once you have your arrow like that, select remove tool and go into your layers panel. We're going to rasterize that arrow. So go and right click and select rasterize, and we're going to rename it to arrow, so when I refer to it you know what I'm talking about. Alright, cool. So next what we're going to do is select our gauge layer. We're going to control click on that thumbnail of the gauge layer. What it's going to do is to make an outline of what people normally call marching ants in Photoshop. You see this selection in the gauge layer. Now we're going to want to select our arrow tool, our arrow layer, and we're going to hit Control Shift I to invert that selection on the gauge, and we're going to hit backspace on that arrow layer. What that does is takes everything out outside of the gauge and make that, delete. I don't know if I made that clear, but it deletes everything outside the gauge layer. That's what I'm trying to say. Alright, so now we're going to make 3 copies of this arrow. So we can drag it down and make a copy. And we're going to actually do that one more time. Now we're going to go into select that last layer we just copied. And we're going to give it a custom layer style. And we're going to give it a gradient, because you could give it any color you want. It could be a different color, it could be a blue, a coordinating color, green. It could be any color you want. For this one, we're going to select purple. The same gradient purple we used for our stroke on the gauge. Now we're going to right click, copy that layer style, and select the other 2 arrow layers, and we're going to paste that layer style in there. So they both have the same layer style as the first one. Alright, so next what we're going to do is select that very top one, and we're going to hold shift, and we're going to bring it out just a little bit, so until we see the outline of it separating from the other two arrows. So select our next arrow, and select our next arrow and holding shift, remember, and we want to drag it out until we see that outline of the arrow separating from the other arrow. So that looks perfect. Now we're going to select all 3 arrows by selecting one and hold shift and select the last one, and we're going to hit that link layer, the link button down here where it's going to link those layers, and we're actually going to put them in a folder, a group as it's called in Photoshop. Alright, so after we've done that, we're going to move holding shift. We're going to click on it first and hold shift and bring those arrows all the way to the very end. Like that. That looks perfect. Alright, so we're going to go and decrease the opacity to 10. So you're not going to see it on your screen, but I can kind of see it on my screen. Now we're going to make another layer, another animation frame, and we're going to nudge or move up those 3 arrows slightly more than it was before, so just like that. And we're going to increase the opacity about, it's 10%, so we're going to increase it to 35, like that. Create another animation frame, and we're going to nudge it up a little bit more. That looks pretty good. And now we're going to increase it. Oops, I think I did something wrong here. Alright, I'm going to nudge it up. Okay, that looks perfect. Now I'm going to change the opacity to 55, or let me see, I'll say 60. And create another animation frame and move it up just a little bit more. And we're going to put that to about 75 or 85. And lastly, we're going to create another animation frame and select and hold shift, and we're going to bring it at the very end till it touches over there. And we're cool. Now we're going to select our text tool and type out loading. Now the font I'm using is called Val. You can find it on dafont.com, DAFONT.com. Alright, now I'm gonna slightly adjust my loading text right there. Now as you can see on my other layers, the loading is actually appearing. So we're gonna select 1 through 4, and we're gonna disable that loading text so it doesn't show on the first 4 layers or animation frames. And as you can see on number 4 or number 5, the 5th layer is going to show it. Now this is important. We want the animation to be starting from, we're going to select our 4th animation, which is at 85% for the arrows. We're going to bring out our loading text, and we're going to make sure that loading text is at the end, like that. So, and we're gonna disable it right now from there. Alright, so this is important. Now select your last animation frame and everything appears. So what's gonna happen is that once you tween these layers or animate the layers in between these 2 layers or animation frames, the loading is gonna come from the right and move into the left, while the arrows is moving to the right. I'll explain a little more. We're going to select our 4th animation frame. We're going to select this button at the very bottom, right next to the duplicate animation frame. We're going to select that button, and it's called tweening. We're going to tween with the next 5. We're going to tween with the next frame, and it's going to say add frames, and it's going to say 5. Just press OK. You don't want to edit anything. But what it does is, as you click on the animation frames, you'll see the loading appear, and it's moving to the right to the left as the arrows is moving to the right. So by the time it gets to the last frame, it appears. Alright, so next what we're gonna want to do is select frame 10, make sure it's there, and we're gonna make sure that both the loading is set to well, first off, we're gonna make a new animation frame, and we're gonna make sure the opacity is at 0, and loading is at, the arrows is gonna be at 0. So when we go back to our 10th frame, we're going to tween that 10th frame with the 11th frame where the arrows in the loading is set to 0. And then as you can see, as you go through the frames, they start disappearing slowly, slowly, slowly. Now we're done pretty much. Now we're going to select all the frames by selecting one, holding shift, and selecting the very end, and we're going to select on that little drop down where it shows the delay time, and we're going to put to 1 second. You could do 2 seconds. 1 second seems pretty quick for loading, Alright, so go to File, Save for Web and Devices, and it's going to show Optimized and Original at the top. You want to make sure it's selected at Original, and hit that play button, and then you're going to see your animation start to play. And as you can see, it fades out gently and goes back to the very end. So this is how you create a cool passing light or passing object in Photoshop. So this is me, Mike, from cnykarts.com. Please check out the link in the video description to check out my website and go to the forums on this topic right here. This is going to be called Passing Object Animation through Photoshop. It's me again, Mike. See you guys later. Peace.